no discussion about the history of evolution is complete without considering Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is notable for so many reasons in evolutionary biology, as we'll see throughout this semester. But the principal one is that he, while thinking about how one species could give rise to a new species, proposed a realistic, testable mechanism, which we refer to as natural selection. So who was Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin is a young person in England who's an avid lover of natural history. He comes from upper middle class family. He's studying to be a clergyman. He's in this position in those days. Clergymen studied natural history, so botany, animals, invertebrate zoology, those kinds of things. And Charles Darwin loved this. And one of his teachers who knows this assists him in getting an appointment as a ship's naturalist for the Royal Navy on a 5-year expedition around the globe. Darwin is 22 years old when they leave London. He goes on a 5-year adventure. He's got his goal, his mission is to collect all kinds of species of all different things and bring this information back to England. The journey was long and the journey was tremendous. At many points during ports of call, Charles Darwin could go inland and explore. He collected many samples of all kinds of things. He recorded all kinds of data in his notebooks. Many of the specimens he shipped home to England. The journey took them all around the globe without risk. The vessel in which they were traveling, the Biol, was approximately 90 feet in length, so not much longer than the classroom that we'll be in when we meet again on Wednesday. During the journey, when they round South America and they're going up the Pacific coast, they stop at the Galapagos Islands in the middle of the Pacific, as many sailing vessels did in those days, to get food and fresh water. And while they spent time there, probably several weeks, fixing their ships and all that sort of thing, Darwin had the opportunity to visit many of the islands in the archipelago there, the Galapagos archipelago, and to look at all the natural biota there. And he saw organisms that existed nowhere else on Earth. They were endemic, as we say, to the Galapagos. One of the types of organisms he saw in the Galapagos were finches, and something that astonished him on his travels around the Galapagos Islands were the number and diversity of finches that he saw. And he saw over 9 different types of finches. In fact, now we classify 14 different types of finches from the Galapagos Islands. And he wondered, why is it that I'm here 700 miles off the coast of the nearest mainland in South America on this little island, and I see 9 different kinds of finches? What is this, some kind of a joke played by the creator? An alternative explanation that he wondered about was perhaps an ancestral population of finches migrated to the Galapagos Islands, and because there were diverse habitats on the different islands, those birds speciated as they adapted to the different conditions. So the evolution idea here is that one species possibly arrived from the mainland and over time its descendants speciated. After the long journey we just were talking about, Darwin returned to England. He married his first cousin, actually, who was Emma Wedgwood. She was a member of the Wedgwood pottery family, so she was a wealthy. She came from a wealthy family, and that meant that Darwin was able to become a wealthy gentleman, and he had plenty of time to work in his study, seen over here on the right, and think about the species question using all the data that he collected from all of his travels around the world. So he was there, he wrote, he corresponded with all of the great scientists of his era. Back at home in England, Darwin spent many years thinking about and analyzing his data. He sketched up the ideas for his great work on the origin of species by natural selection in the 1830s. It wasn't published until 1859. This tremendous book collects a huge variety of observations and facts that shed light on the concept of evolution, and really makes such a strong argument that it persuaded everyone in his generation and all thinkers since that time. Why 20 years? Why did it take 20 years to write? It didn't take 20 years to write, but Darwin realized the social impact that his ideas would have because they were such a radical change from what people believed in that time. It's a great read. I greatly encourage you to think about it. Consider taking a look at it. Darwin is an excellent writer. In the next slide, I'm just going to read a little bit about a passage from his writing. Skip ahead here. Charles Darwin writes, "In considering the origin of species, it is quite conceivable that a naturalist reflecting on the mutual affinities of organic beings, on their embryological relations, their geographical distribution, geological succession, and other such facts, might come to the conclusion that species had not been independently created, but had descended like varieties from other species." Wow! Now, what made Darwin different than other people who had thought about this and thought there might be something to speciation is that Darwin proposed a mechanism for the process of evolution. That mechanism is natural selection, and that is going to be the subject of our next two class meetings. So, thanks for your patience and listening to this long tale. I'm glad you're joining me in this, and we will meet again on Wednesday.